Hey, hey, how's it going? This is Cams Campbell of Cams Campbell Reads. Welcome to the first part of my White Guard read-along in October 2025. You'll forgive my voice being a bit hoarse. I have a cold, but I want to get this done, so let's get it done. I'm basically going to read out the post I've written. Hopefully I'll get it right, but I might ad-lib as I go along. We'll see how that goes. So, let's get into it. This is the first of 4 posts in which I'll walk through The White Guard by Mikhail Bulgakov. I'm a bit behind schedule due to a family funeral, but I still intend to complete the series by the end of October and host a live call for paid subscribers on Tuesday the 4th of November at 8 p.m. UK time. My goal is to publish the second post at the start of next week. Welcome to Kiev in December 1918 and to the Turban family's world amid historic upheaval. Though the city is in crisis, what makes Bulgakov's story compelling is his focus on daily life, on emotion, loyalty and survival as the old world collapses. At the time Bulgakov wrote, readers would have known the political background instinctively. That gap in my own knowledge made it harder to enter the novel. Who was Petlura? What was a hetman? Why were Germans in Kiev? This was an era of military fragmentation and moral confusion, whose aftershocks still echo today. Yet Bulgakov's craftsmanship in voice and character draws even the modern reader into his lost world. If you missed my earlier background post on the historical setting, you might want to start there, and there's a link in the post to my previous post. Main characters, chapters 1 to 5. Yelena Turbina, aged 24, loosely based on Bulgakov's sister. Sergei Ivanovich Talberg, aged 31, a colonel under Hetman Skoropadsky, Yelena's husband, inspired by Bulgakov's brother-in-law. Alexei Turbin, aged 28, the elder brother medical officer, a stand-in for Bulgakov. Nikolka Turbin, aged 17, the youngest brother, reflecting Bulgakov's younger sibling. Their flat is modelled on the Bulgakov family home in Kiev, now the Mikhail Bulgakov Museum, and there's an image there of the museum in the post. The tiled Dutch stove. One of the novel's most memorable fixtures is the tiled Dutch stove, which Bulgakov almost turns into a character. It's even given a name from The Shipwright of Sardam by P.R. Foreman. The stove both warms the room and anchors the narrative. On its tiles, Nikolka has scrawled graffiti, including Thrash Petlura, a quick shorthand for the Turban's loyalties. The tiled Dutch stove continued, even in the most difficult times, to radiate warmth and life. That's a quotation. The stove, like the family's clocks and books, represent cultural continuity. These details, the smell of old chocolate, the ticking clocks, the lamplight, form a cocoon of civilization even as snow and chaos encroach outside. The 2012 television adaptation depicts the stove wonderfully, glowing amid blizzards and fear. And I've included a screenshot there from the TV adaptation with Alexei opening the stove door with a poker and the graffiti on the white tiles above it. But exactly how were they to live? How? The warmth shatters with descriptions of blizzards and death. The family turns to Father Alexander, who tells them that despair must not be permitted. And we end the chapter with a chilling reading from the book of Revelation. Quote, "And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood." Chapter 2, Guitar, Gunfire and Fishers. Chapter 2 opens with Alexei strumming a 7-string guitar, the instrument that dominated Russian and Ukrainian music before the 6-string Spanish guitar took over in the 1920s. In Vladimir Basov's 1976 film adaptation The Days of the Turbines, the same 7-string is used, matching the period perfectly. And I've included a link there to Alexei singing a song on the guitar from YouTube. Gunfire interrupts the moment. Though the source isn't yet clear, we soon learn that Nikolka has enlisted. He wears a cadet's epaulets, and that Talberg is late returning. He is accompanying a train carrying the hetman's gold reserves and state documents, the wealth of the collapsing Ukrainian government. In effect, Talberg is helping the regime and its German backers flee Kiev. Yelena's marriage to him has already fractured. Quote, "Ever since the day of Yelena's wedding, it was as if a crack in the vase of the Turbines' life had formed." Political differences are at the heart of it. Talberg is an opportunist. In March 1917, he was the first to wear a red armband, signalling revolutionary sympathy. Now he serves the hetman, and by the chapter's end, he is preparing to desert to Denikin's White Army on the Don. His allegiances shift with the wind. At 10:15, the bell rings. Not Talberg, but Lieutenant Myslyayevsky, frostbitten and furious after defending Kiev from Petlura's advancing troops. He will become important later. When Talberg finally appears, he announces that he's leaving the city with the retreating Germans. As he packs, Bulgakov gives us one of the novel's great lines. Quote, "Never ever remove a shade from a lamp. A shade is sacred. Never scuttle like a rat into the unknown and away from adversity. Sit by the lampshade and doze or read. Let the storm howl outside and wait for people to come to you." End quote. Talberg, of course, does the opposite. He scuttles into the storm while the Turbines stay behind by the lamplight. The baggy trousers. Bulgakov writes, quote, "When people had begun to appear on its streets without boots, but wearing wide baggy trousers under their grey military coats." End quotes. This refers to the Petlurist troops, the populist, largely peasant Ukrainian forces replacing the disciplined German and Hetmanite soldiers. Their loose sharovari, traditional Cossack trousers, contrasted sharply with the polished boots of the officers. For the Turbines' middle-class Russophone world, these baggy trousers symbolised the collapse of order and the rise of the masses, civilization giving way to chaos. And I've included an image there showing someone wearing such baggy trousers or sharovari. Manuscripts don't burn. Later that night, we see the tattered piano score of Gounod's Faust. It's a beautiful scene that reminds me of that famous line from Bulgakov's later masterpiece, The Master and Margarita. Manuscripts don't burn. Quote, "Goodness, never again will Talberg hear the aria O Almighty God or listen to Yelena accompanying Chervinsky. And yet, long after the Turbines and Talberg have departed this earth, pianos will be played. The magnificently costumed Valentine will come onto the stage, the scent of perfume will be redolent in the theatre boxes, and in domestic living rooms, women bathed in lamplight will play the accompaniment for Faust, just like the shipwright of Sardam will never die." End quote. People perish, art endures. Faust and the shipwright of Sardam will outlive every regime. Bulgakov's faith in artistic immortality feels prophetic. Here we are, reading him nearly a century later. And, just like that, while sparks and snowflakes whirl, Talberg is gone. Chapters 3 to 5, Secrets, Dreams and Return. Vasilisa and the Hidden Cash. In Chapter 3, we meet Vasily Ivanovich Lisovich, called Vasilisa, the Turbines' landlord. We witness him carefully hiding a package in the wall. Bulgakov's brief vignette of hoarding and fear captures the mood of a city without trust or stability. There's a scene here that depicts a grey, unkempt lupine figure who climbed down from the acacia branch on which he had been sitting for the last 30 minutes. This figure had been observing Vasilisa as he hid his package in the wall. Keep this scene in mind as you read the novel. Vasilisa pulls a wad of banknotes from his drawer in denominations of 50 karbovanci, and I've included an image of these banknotes with a description. The front of the notes depicted a peasant with a drooping moustache, armed with a spade, together with a peasant woman carrying a sickle. The reverse side featured the same couple, their reddish faces magnified within an oval frame, the man sporting the same drooping moustache in the Ukrainian style. The karbovanets was the Ukrainian currency from 1917 to 1920. It was reinstated twice after that in the periods 1942 to 45 and 1992 to 96. I lived and worked in Odessa from 1995 to 96, and this was the currency in use at that time. The currency was subject to hyperinflation, and I used to be paid in millions for my teaching job. Matches and chewing gum were often used as change when buying items from the street kiosks. The karbovanets was replaced by the hryvnia in 1996 at a rate of 100,000 karbovantsiv to 1 hryvnia. Let's get back to Vasilisa. It turns out he's got quite the hoard of cash, bonds and treasure squirreled away in various places. It must have been a scary time. A toast to the Tsar. Back upstairs, Chervinsky and Karas join the Turbins for a night of drinking and debate. Myslyevsky, drunk and sentimental, raises a toast echoing Emperor Paul I. Quote, "Russia can be sustained by only two things, the Orthodox faith and autocracy." Nikolka reports that the Bolsheviks have murdered the imperial family. News from July 1918 that still hasn't reached everyone in the chaos of December. The bonnet and the dream. The Elena, grieving her husband's flight, places her red bonnet over the lamp. Bulgakov animates it. Quote, "The bonnet listened, its cheeks suffused with a deep red colour." End quote. When she sighs, "My husband," Alexei mutters the novel's bluntest verdict. Quote, "He's simply a bastard. That's all there is to it." Unable to sleep, Alexei reads Dostoevsky's The Devils. And here's a quote from that. "For a Russian, the concept of honour is merely an unnecessary burden." He dreams of absurd figures and of Kiev transformed in a surreal passage foreshadowing The Master and Margarita. The City. Chapter 4 offers Bulgakov's panoramic portrait of Kiev at its peak under the Hetman. Theatres, cafes, brothels, refugees, officers. A last shimmering moment before collapse. Quote, "The city expanded and swelled like leavened dough escaping from the pot." Among those returning are the Turbin brothers, veterans of the Imperial Russian Army, now adrift. Alexei had served as a medical officer on the southwestern front against Germany and Austria-Hungary. Nikolka was likely a cadet. After the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, March 1918, the front dissolved. The Germans occupied Ukraine and ex-soldiers flooded home, displaced, hungry and with uncertain futures. Peasants, Petlura and the countryside. Chapter 5 brings a jarring scene of Vasilisa's lust for a milkmaid, then a shift outward to the myth of Petlura. Simon Petlura, recently released from prison by the Hetman, will soon lead the directory that overthrows him. Bulgakov captures the peasants' fury at the Germans, the Hetman and Moscow. Critic Yevgeny Dobrenko, in his introduction to Marian Schwartz's translation, notes that The White Guard is not a simple Reds versus Whites novel, but one of deeper oppositions. Quote, "The central opposition is city versus countryside, the city as the centre of civilization, and the peasantry and the steppe as the embodiment of barbarism." End quote. It's a populist cycle, one oppressive order replaced by another, or, as The Who put it, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And then there's a YouTube link to The Who singing Won't Get Fooled Again at Shepperton Studios in 1978. Following Petlura's release came the second great event, Kaiser Wilhelm II's abdication on 9th of November 1918 and the armistice 2 days later, the signal for the Germans' withdrawal and the Hetman's imminent fall. Alexei's Dream and later editions. The mystical Alexei's Dream scene was omitted from Michael Glennie's 1971 English translation and restored only in editions published after 1990. In it, Colonel Nye Tours and Sergeant Major Gilin appear to Alexei in heaven, where the Apostle Peter foretells the fall of the Bolsheviks at Perikop 1920, an event that chronologically lies beyond the novel's 1918 setting. The episode blurs time, casting the Civil War as a spiritual cycle of suffering and redemption. Translator's choices. I have 3 translations of the novel and always enjoy comparing. This sentence starts chapter 2 and it's interesting to see how different translators deal with the word mohnati. Original. Itak, Bulbieli, mohnati, dikaber. Он стремительно подходил к половине. So, Roger Cockrell has rendered that as follows. And so the frosty white December raced towards its halfway point. Marianne Schwartz. And so it was a white and shaggy December, which was quickly approaching the halfway mark. And Michael Glennie. White with hoarfrost, December sped towards its end. Glennie's hoarfrost works, but it's a common phrase. According to the Woodlands Trust, the word hoar comes from Old English, and the way the ice crystals form makes it look like white hair or a beard. But according to my bilingual dictionary, there is a direct translation into Russian of hoarfrost, and that would be inye. Translation is always about choices, and there are no right or wrong ways of doing it. Maybe a native Russian speaker could tell us if mohnati sounds as weird as shaggy to describe a winter frost. Bishop or Rook. At the start of chapter 5, translators diverge again. Original. А за ферзем приходит стремительный легкий слон, офицер. Here, slon means bishop in a chess game. Cockrell's rook is likely an error or an interpretive slip, since rook would be ladya. Schwartz and Glennie correctly give bishop. Which translation are you reading? Let me know in the comments below. Sources and further reading. Orlando Figes, A People's Tragedy, especially Part 4, Chapter 12. Just a side note, this is one of my all-time favourite history books about Russian Revolution. It's an incredible read and I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend the introduction I mentioned to Marian Schwartz's translation by Yevgeny Dobrenko. I read it yesterday and it explains so much, honestly. So I'm planning to put out an additional piece about basically summarising what Dobrenko has written in his introduction, because it helped me a great deal and I'm sure it'll help you as well. So that brings us to the end of part 1. I will be planning, as I said at the beginning, to put out part 2 hopefully at the beginning of next week and catch up with the novel by the end of the month so that we're ready for a Zoom call, or it might be on Substack, I'm not sure. I've never done a live call on Substack, so that might be the place to do it, given that that's the platform I'm using. If you would like to come along to that, it's going to be at 8 PM on Tuesday the 4th of November, and it's for paid subscribers only. It's just a way of rustling up some support for all the work that I'm doing here. So if you would like to come along to that, I hope to get out some discussion questions to you beforehand so you can start to prepare and think about some of the answers that resonate with you through the novel. So thanks for listening and or reading, and I'll catch you in part 2. See you later. До свидания. Пока. Счастливо.